I remember the sea that day. It was quiet, too quiet for a world that never stops moving. The wind was gentle, the sun warm, and the waves whispered stories only old sailors like me could understand. That's when I first heard his name, Monkey D. Luffy. They called him a fool, a boy who claimed he would become the king of the pirates. But even fools can change the world. And that boy, he did. Luffy wasn't born with wealth or an army. He didn't have maps, nor a ship fit for sailing across the Grand Line. All he had was a hat, a simple straw hat that once belonged to the man who inspired him, Red-Haired Shanks. Ah, Shanks. I remember him too. A pirate who laughed in the face of danger, whose crew treated life like a grand adventure rather than a curse. When he arrived in Fusha village, he was no ordinary guest. The townsfolk feared pirates, but Shanks, he was different. He smiled, drank with the locals, and never raised his sword unless it was to protect someone. That's where Luffy met him, a scrawny little kid with fire in his eyes and dreams bigger than the sky. He wanted to join Shanks' crew, but the pirate only laughed. You? A pirate? Shanks chuckled. Come back when you can swim, kid. Luffy didn't like being laughed at, but Shanks saw something in him, the same madness every great man carries. One day, that madness nearly cost Luffy his life. He found a strange fruit in a wooden chest, small, purple, and swirling with strange markings. Without hesitation, he took a bite. The taste was awful, but the consequences were worse. It was a devil fruit, and from that day, the boy's body became rubber. He could stretch, twist, and bounce, but he lost the ability to swim. In a world made of oceans, it was the cruelest fate imaginable. I'll still become a pirate, he shouted, grinning from ear to ear. And Shanks, he laughed too, because deep down, he believed it. Then came that day. The bandits, the storm, the monster from the sea. Higuma the bear took Luffy hostage, mocking the pirates for their cowardice. But when the waves turned red and the beast rose from the depths, Shanks appeared, calm, fearless, and ready to die for the boy. He lost his arm that day, but saved Luffy's life. And as the sun set over the bloodstained sea, Shanks placed his straw hat on the boy's head. Take care of it for me, he said softly. And when you've become a great pirate, bring it back. I'll never forget that image, the boy crying, clutching the hat to his chest, as the ship of Red-Haired Shanks vanished into the horizon. That was the day a dream was born. Years passed, and the world forgot about the boy with the straw hat. But I didn't. Because one morning, I saw a small boat drifting across the endless blue, and on it stood a young man, smiling, fearless, and ready to chase the impossible. Monkey D. Luffy had set sail. No crew, no map, no food, just a dream. The first person he met on his journey wasn't a friend, but a pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro, a man chained in a navy base, starving under the burning sun. They said he was a demon, a bounty hunter who cut down pirates without mercy. But Luffy saw something else. He saw a man with pride and purpose. When I think of that day, I can still hear Luffy's words echo across the courtyard. If you're joining me, we are friends. If not, I'll untie you anyway. Zoro laughed. You're insane. Yeah, Luffy grinned. But I'm gonna be king of the pirates. That was the start of everything. Together, they faced their first true enemy, Captain Morgan, the iron-fisted marine who ruled his base like a tyrant. The man's arrogance was as big as his axe hand, but he underestimated the power of a rubber boy and a swordsman with a dream. When Morgan fell, the people cheered, not for pirates, but for freedom. And so, the Straw Hat Pirates were born. Two souls, one chasing freedom, the other chasing strength. But the sea is vast, and the ocean doesn't forgive fools. Their next stop brought them face to face with a thief, a woman named Nami. Beautiful, cunning, and clever enough to steal from pirates and marines alike. She claimed she hated pirates, and she had every reason to. But Luffy didn't care. Join my crew, he said. I don't work with pirates, she replied. He only smiled. You will. That's the thing about Luffy. He doesn't command, he inspires. He doesn't order people to follow him. They choose to. Nami was a storm disguised as a woman. You could see it in her eyes, the kind that had seen too much, lost too much, and trusted too little. When Luffy met her, she was stealing from pirates in a small port town, outsmarting them all without even breaking a sweat. She wasn't chasing treasure. She was chasing freedom, but the kind that costs everything. I watched from the docks that day as Luffy smiled at her, completely unaware that she planned to betray him. He didn't care. To him, everyone was a potential friend, until proven otherwise. That was his curse, and his greatest strength. But the peace didn't last. In the East Blue, danger never sleeps. Their next opponent was a clown, but not the kind that made you laugh. Buggy the Clown, captain of the Buggy Pirates, and one of the most unpredictable men to ever sail the seas. Buggy had once been a crewmate of Shanks, back in the old days. Two men with opposite hearts. One laughed for joy, the other for madness. When Luffy confronted him, it was more than a fight. It was a clash between what Shanks represented and what he left behind. I still remember how the town looked after Buggy's bombs rained down, smoke rising, people screaming, and Luffy standing in the middle of it all, smiling through the chaos. "Stop destroying people's homes," he shouted. Buggy laughed. "And who are you to stop me, boy?" "I'm Monkey D. Luffy," he said, tightening his straw hat. "The man who'll be king of the pirates." That hat, it wasn't just an accessory. It was a promise, and every time Luffy touched it, you could feel the spirit of Shanks watching over him. Buggy, with his chop-chop fruit powers, could separate his body parts and attack from all directions, a floating menace of limbs and laughter. But Luffy fought with more than rubber. He fought with conviction. And when Buggy's banner fell, the town saw not a boy, but a captain. Nami, impressed and curious, decided to stick around, not because she trusted him, but because she needed him. There was something she wasn't saying, a secret buried deep behind those clever eyes. And though she tried to hide it, the pain was written across her face like scars from a storm long past. Their next destination was a sleepy little island called Syrup Village. At first glance, it seemed peaceful, kids playing, birds singing, the kind of place you'd never expect to find darkness. But that's the thing about the sea, darkness hides everywhere. That's where they met him, Usopp, a boy who told tall tales about pirate adventures and heroic battles that never happened. He was loud, dramatic, and a bit of a coward, but beneath all that bravado, there was a heart that refused to break. He reminded me of every dreamer who ever looked at the horizon and whispered, "Someday." Luffy liked him immediately. He didn't care that Usopp was a liar. He saw a kindred spirit, someone who believed in the impossible. But Syrup Village held a secret. A butler, polite and soft-spoken, was not what he seemed. Captain Kuro, a pirate thought long dead, was planning to slaughter the entire village and steal its fortune. When Usopp discovered the truth, no one believed him. No one ever did. But Luffy did. He didn't need proof. He trusted instinct, the kind that only true captains have. And when the sun rose the next day, the Straw Hat crew stood between the villagers and death itself. Kuro moved like a shadow, blades gleaming in the dawn light, but Luffy faced him head-on. "I don't care about your plans," he said. "You hurt my friends, you lose." The fight was brutal, but in the end, the boy with the straw had stood victorious once again. And when it was over, Usopp looked at him with tears in his eyes. "I want to go with you," he said. Luffy smiled. "Welcome aboard." The crew was growing, 4 strangers bound by nothing but dreams. Their next adventure took them to the floating restaurant Barady, a ship built for cooking and chaos. The smell of grilled fish and fried meat filled the air, the kind of place where sailors fought first and paid later. That's where they met Sanji. The first time I saw him, he was kicking a rude customer across the deck while lighting a cigarette with calm precision. A chef, a fighter, and a romantic fool, that was Sanji. He cooked for everyone, even the enemies, because he knew what hunger felt like. He'd once been stranded at sea with his mentor, Zeph, a man who'd eaten his own leg to keep Sanji alive. That kind of pain leaves a mark deeper than scars. Luffy offered him a place on the crew immediately, but Sanji refused. "This is my home," he said, "and I owe the old man my life." Luffy only smiled. "Then I'll wait." And he did, right up until the storm came. The Don Krieg pirates arrived, bringing destruction and greed in their wake. Krieg was a warlord without honor, a man who ruled through fear and steel. His fleet once boasted 50 ships, now only 1 remained, and he planned to take Barady for himself. The cooks fought with pans and knives, the Straw Hats with everything they had. And in the middle of the chaos, Sanji saw something in Luffy, the same fire Zeph once had. The will to risk everything for others. Luffy fought Krieg until his body could barely move, until the deck itself broke beneath his feet. But when the dust settled, the pirate tyrant lay defeated, and Luffy, battered and bruised, stood tall. Sanji knelt beside his mentor and whispered, "Old man, I think I've found my sea." Zeph smiled. "Then go. Don't let that dream drown." And so, the cook who once swore never to leave joined the crew that never stopped moving. 5 souls now sailed together: a swordsman, a thief, a liar, a cook, and a captain with a straw hat. They weren't the strongest or the smartest, but they had something rarer, a shared dream. And as they left Barity behind, the sun painted the horizon gold. The ship cut through the waves like a blade through fate, and for the first time, they looked forward to something greater, the Grand Line. But the sea is a cruel storyteller. It gives hope only to test it, because waiting for them ahead was the shadow of betrayal and the storm that would nearly tear them apart.